rest of you left out there, Shalom to you all. And I'm going to entitle this video, "The English Alphabet Stems from the Hebrew Alphabet, You Big Dummy." So I'm going to let this play. This is, the IUIC is out of their minds. Now the Hebrew pronunciations of the Lord is not legit. Now I just want you to listen. Then I'm going to go to Google. Fair use, fair use.
So a lot of times when you get into the so-called woke community, right, and you say Jesus Christ, everybody gonna say you can't say Jesus, because guess what? J was one of the last letters added to the alphabet, and you can't say it because his name couldn't have been Jesus because there wasn't no J, right? But they say that speaking English to you. Guess what? You couldn't say, you won't be able to say a word with a J. You can't use G. You can't use U. You can't use W. You can't use Y. And you won't be able to write in lowercase letters because all that stuff was added afterwards. So guess what? When you say Yahawashai with that W, guess what? You can't say that because it wasn't no W in the English language. When you say Yahweh, guess what? It wasn't the English language. When you put a Y, it was no Y, right? So people pick and choose what they want to do. People will say Yahawashai, people will say Yahweh, but you can't say Jesus because it wasn't no J. But guess what? It wasn't no Y either. It wasn't no W either. All right, we gotta look.
There was a Y that came from the Hebrew. The W also came from the Hebrew.
It's crazy what's going on, right? But let's see how people try and justify those things. Go to Exodus. I'll start at chapter 23 and verse 11. All right, y'all listen up. Y'all listen to this thing because I get sick and tired of hearing it, to tell you the truth. But let's read it. Exodus chapter 23, go to verse 13.
But let me just say this. If you go back when Nate did the video with Bunyam Yun, Elder Bunyam, whatever his title was at that time, they did a whole 2 hours or about 2 hours, maybe a little bit more than 2 hours of the Hebrew, the true names of Yahweh and Yahawashi. They both, actually it was Nate that actually, now if you go to this book right here, History of the American Indians, it said Yahweh. And if you go to they didn't have blue letter back then. If you go to the Ben Yehudi English English dictionary, you can see it's not Jesus. You're going off when you say Jesus, and his name is not God. So he spent about 2 hours putting a scholarly cap on to show you, if somebody says Jesus 2,000 years ago, did they call him Jesus 2,000 years ago? What would be the answer to the IUIC? I don't even know. You got to ask them. Could anybody have called him Jesus? No, because there was no J back then. The J came about in 1524. Now this knucklehead, this blockhead right here, he said, well, you can't use the Y. Y comes from the Y, where you get the word Yah, come from the Hebrew. He said you can't use the word W, because W doesn't come from the Hebrew. W does come from the Hebrew. Let me let you hear this again. See, if Bishop Nate was teaching now what he taught over 20 years ago, they would be defending it. They'll be just, look, brother, you guys are going off. When you go, the word is Yah and the name is Yahweh. But because he said, no, we're going to agree to use the word Jesus Christ, which I believe he did some backdoor deal. Let's listen to this again. Let's listen.